Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to say, finally, it is time for the Super Bowl!
Indeed it is, everybody. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up live right here on YouTube as well as Facebook. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. I gotta say, this is the very first time I've been doing the show since October 21st, 2019. This is the first time that we have done a show on a Saturday, on a Super Bowl Saturday extravaganza, and man, do we have a good one for you tonight. Going to lead off talking about Patrick Mahomes, what this win, should the Chiefs get it on Sunday against Philadelphia, what it could mean for his legacy in the chase and the GOAT conversation. Obviously going after the greatest who ever did it, Mr. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. Get to that to start the show. Also, in about 10 minutes or so, loyal listeners and viewers of the show know that I am a diehard Golden State Warriors fan, and they just traded for Jimmy Butler this week. I have not done a show since the trade. I'm doing one now. And I'll give you my reaction to that because the more I think about it, I gotta admit to you, the less I like it. Get to that later in today's show. 6:25 Eastern. We're going live right now, 6 p.m. Eastern. 6:25 Eastern. Barry Grant Jr., All Even Podcast. He'll be joining us on the show today to talk Luka trade, to talk Super Bowl, to talk Jimmy Butler trade. He'll have a lot of thoughts. He does a show. He's been going live as of late, by the way, so he's been doing a great job in that space. Looking forward to having him on at 6:25. What else we got? Eli Manning not in the Hall of Fame. We'll discuss that with Barry not making the HOF. Josh Allen named MVP, which surprised a lot of people. I'm here to tell you, the voters got it right. Get to that later on the show. What else we got? Top 10 players in the Super Bowl, what this game could mean for Jalen Hurts, and of course, the whole reason, really, at the end of the day, why we're even doing the show. At the end, my Super Bowl 59 prediction. Kansas City out of the AFC, Philadelphia out of the NFC, a rematch of the Super Bowl from just 2 seasons ago, in which Kansas City prevailed in a classic 38-35. Get my predictions at the end of Carving Up Live. You are tuned in for a treat, ladies and gentlemen, so we got a lot for you. But first, the story of this game, and there are many. Saquon Barkley, he's obviously stuck it enough to the New York Giants. That's putting it mildly. Could Jalen Hurts sort of revitalize how people think of him? We'll get to him later in today's show. The same could be said about Nick Sirianni, Andy Reid in the pursuit of Bill Belichick. Could it be Travis Kelce's final game? All of that. And by the way, Kendrick Lamar, there's going to be a loser in the Super Bowl. It's going to be Drake. He'll lose more than whoever loses the Super Bowl loses. The story, though, Patrick Mahomes, who is in a pursuit that I don't think any of us 2 years ago, as recently as that, thought was humanly possible. And that is to pursue the greatest of all time, the GOAT, Tom Brady. Because 2 years ago, Tom had 7. And entering the 2022 season, Tom Brady had 7 Super Bowl rings, which is more than any franchise, much less player. 3 MVPs should have more. Mahomes, entering the 2022 season, 1 title, 1 MVP. Since then, he's got an MVP on his resume, got a couple Super Bowl MVPs with back-to-back championships. That has not been done since Tom Brady did that in the 2003 and 2004 seasons. Now Patrick Mahomes looking for the first three-peat in the history of the Super Bowl. So, I've been sort of, and I try not to do this, folks, is dance around a question. I try to offer nuance. People see that as dancing around, but I try not to be like, oh, maybe dip my toe in the water. I plunge, man. I go all in on takes one way or the other. I've danced around it this week. Is Patrick Mahomes in the conversation? Does he pass Tom Brady? Some are in the media, credible members who I have utmost respect for, saying, hey, he passes Brady in my book if he wins the Super Bowl. My answer to that question, is Patrick Mahomes going to surpass Tom Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time? And at that point, by definition, in my view, the greatest football player of all time, should he get the job done on Sunday? My answer is no. With that being said, because listen, Brady's resume it doesn't make sense. The guy has had 3 Hall of Fame careers. If you want to talk about his first 7 years in the league, 7 years as a starter, went to 4 Super Bowls, won 3 of them, won a league MVP, and before the Giants knocked them off the Super Bowl, talk about Eli later, Eli Manning, that is, of course, the Patriots were the last undefeated team to get to a Super Bowl. They obviously fell to the Giants, but the last one to do it. In the ensuing 6 seasons following that, Tom Brady won another league MVP and kind of took the step to the next level of being able to duel Peyton Manning, where it's 2 great quarterbacks going back and forth. And then the last 9 years of Tom's career is absurd. It's crazy. The last 9 were actually the best years because he got 4 Super Bowls. He got another league MVP. He took Tampa Bay, which is actually a decent franchise now, but coming into Tom Brady's first season in Tampa, they had the worst winning percentage of any of the 4 major American professional sports leagues. And he took them to a Super Bowl, won it year 1. 7 Super Bowls, more than any franchise. He set the bar so high. And part of the reason, there's folks out there that believe Patrick Mahomes cannot pass Tom Brady should he maybe get to 6 rings, dare I say even 7, because of a simple fact. They faced off in the playoffs twice. Brady beat him twice. To that, I would say this. Fair enough. But in that first game, did you see what Mahomes did in the fourth quarter? I believe Kansas City scored like 24 points in the fourth quarter of that game, and Mahomes never touched the ball in overtime. Tom won the coin toss. Tom got it first. Old overtime rules. Boom, boom, boom. Brady did Brady things. New England won the game and ended up winning that Super Bowl. 2020, again, this is where you can't just look at a box score, can't look at a stat sheet. Watch the game. Kansas City's offensive line was as decimated as any has ever been going into the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay was consistently getting pressure just with a straight 4-man rush. Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator, never had to blitz. And Mahomes was running for his life, had nothing to work with up front. And so the added context in that regard. I said this last year when Kansas City went back-to-back, got their 3rd Super Bowl in the Mahomes era. I said, if Patrick is able to lead this team to the first 3-peat in the history of the Super Bowl era, he's already led them to the first 3 consecutive Super Bowls with an opportunity to go for the 3-peat. That's never been done before already. Should he close the deal? Should he finish the job? That, to me, cancels out that 0-2 record against Brady, considering the fact he was awesome in the first go-round and he never had a chance to be great in the second go-round. I mean, let's be honest, roles reversed, Tom Brady with that Chiefs O-line, how do you think he's going to play? Especially with his, that's kind of the knock on Tom, immobility, at least relative to Patrick. And so you keep that in consideration. All of that culminates, to me, in the fact this is, to me, without a shadow of a doubt, you don't think twice about this. This is the biggest game of Patrick Mahomes' career to this point. It's not bigger than the first Super Bowl because I don't want to say we knew he'd get back to Super Bowls because looks like my mic disconnected for a second. I apologize, folks. Like Patrick obviously got to a Super Bowl in year 2 as a starter. Dan Marino did. Dan Marino never got back after losing, I believe, to the 49ers that year. Mahomes gets back to the Super Bowl potentially in the future. The first Super Bowl was not the biggest game of Patrick's career. He got that, nor have the ensuing Super Bowls since, or any AFC title games against Brady or against Joe Burrow, only active quarterback to beat him. This, to me, is the key to unlocking the opportunity to compete with Tom. Because if Mahomes closes the deal on Sunday, he will be able to, proverbially, Patrick and Tom actually have, from the outside looking in, a pretty good relationship, which is really cool to see because, listen, we know that Jordan and LeBron have had a relationship going back to when LeBron was in high school. LeBron actually worked out with Michael Jordan, with Michael Jordan, but met Michael Jordan at a private workout years ago. It's detailed in a great book called LeBron Years Ago. But they've always had a kind of a cold relationship. I mean, we know when the conversation began, is LeBron better than Jordan? What does Michael Jordan do? Put out The Last Dance. He's like, our ESPN Films, let's get this together. Let's go and film this doc, use this archival footage, and let's remind everybody who the GOAT is. They've always had an icy relationship. That doesn't appear to be the case between Tom and Patrick, which I think is awesome to see, and I think it's indicative of, and I give football players a ton of credit on this, the older players, the older generation tends to really embrace the younger guys, and that just does not seem to be the case in the NBA, save for some examples. Magic and Bird embraced the younger generations. God rest his soul, the late, great Jerry West did. Kobe Bryant did, God rest his soul. But by and large, that's just not the culture. You watch inside the NBA, I mean, up until like a few years ago, you think Jokic was a bum. It's unbelievable. So you keep those things in consideration. With that said, Patrick can go to Tom, proverbially speaking, and say, should he close the deal on Sunday? I did something even you didn't do. I did for all that Tom's accomplished, and his resume is basically flawless. Yeah, he lost some Super Bowls to Eli Manning and Nick Foles. Okay, well, he got another 7. I don't think we're going to rip him too much for that, at least as of right now. Is Patrick can go to Tom, Patrick can go to Joe Montana, Patrick can go to Peyton Manning, can go to Dan Marino, John Elway, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. List goes on and on. I did something that not a single one of you have ever done before. And that's going to matter in the GOAT conversation should we get there. I do not believe Patrick Mahomes surpasses Tom Brady with the win on Sunday. Even if he throws for 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, and they blow out Philly, which, spoiler, I don't think is going to happen. I can't quite put him above that yet. With 4 rings to 7, it's not count the rings. Otherwise, the NBA Bill Russell will be the GOAT. I've always argued against that. But at the same time, did something no one else has done before. And to me, what it does, I think Patrick's already the second greatest ever. This would solidify it. You would not be able to make a credible argument that anybody, save for Tom, obviously, is better than Mahomes all time. Can't make a case for Peyton with that playoff resume. Can't make a case for Joe Montana. Equivalent rings. We all know Mahomes has had a significantly, with respect to Joe, greater impact on winning the highest level. I mean, we could show you the playoff numbers. We showed this on Monday's show. It's absurd. Let's go show those Mahomes stats. Okay, 17-3 record in the playoffs, 43 touchdowns, 8 picks. We'll show you where some of these rank all time in the playoffs. Spoiler, it's good. Completes almost 68% of his throws, 277 pass yards per game, and a passer rating of 105.8. Can we show where that ranks all time? Oh, it's first basically across the board. 43 8 touchdown interception ratio, best ever. Pass yards per game, first ever. Completion percentage, first ever. Pass rating, first ever. Win percentage, first ever. This is all in the playoffs. Of course, total wins 17. He broke the tie with Joe Montana very recently. He's got a ways to catch Tom. I think Tom has 35, if I'm not mistaken. Second all time. And so Mahomes, by the numbers, is the best playoff quarterback. He's certainly not the greatest. I've always said big distinction. And so, listen, it's, again, I think this is the rare instance where you don't want to say the favorite team, Kansas City's favored by a point. There's been brief moments in Vegas where this has been a pick-em. I mean, it's neck and neck, and you understand why. But this is an opportunity, a rare opportunity, where the dynasty, the team that's done it a million times, actually, I feel like, legacy-wise, historically speaking, actually has more pressure than the team that has done it before. You know, there's some guys in the Eagles team, Lane Johnson, who won the Super Bowl. Brandon Graham won the Super Bowl in 2017. But majority of these guys, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they have not done that. Nick Sirianni, I actually think there's more pressure on Kansas City, in particular Mahomes, in that regard. You'll see who I pick at the end of today's show. I'll also give my top 10 players in Super Bowl 59 in my second to last segment, about an hour and a half or so from now. But, man, the storylines in this game, we feel like we say this about every Super Bowl, but I feel like it is going to be, because Mahomes loses, he falls to 3-2, which isn't devastating because at one point Brady was 3-2. He started 3-0, lost 2 to Eli Manning and the Giants. Obviously, read off 4 of his next 6 Super Bowls, which is remarkable. That's not the totality of them. I feel like this would be the greatest case that those argue Mahomes 5-10 years down the road could say. They're like, yeah, Brady's great. Brady never did this. Brady never three-peated. He had opportunities to. Right? If you talk about 05, kind of a clunky New England year. They lost to, I forget who the quarterback was of the Broncos. They lost 05 to Denver. Okay, they had a chance between 16 and 18 to three-peat. They won in 16, won in 18. Now, it wasn't Brady's fault they fell in 17. Scored 33 points, threw for 509 yards, Super Bowl record. But in 18, that was a Belichick game. The Patriots scored 13 points. So they've had opportunities to do that, weren't able to come through. Patrick could be able to say, I did it, you didn't. And by the way, I went through the best of the best to get there. I will have went through Josh Allen twice, Joe Burrow once, Mahomes once. Joe Burrow once, Lamar Jackson once. I went through C.J. Stroud. I went through some stacked Philly and San Francisco rosters. It would be a remarkable accomplishment, and what it would do is 2 things. Solidify him without question, without any shadow of a doubt, that's the second greatest quarterback ever, bar none, and it will help him tremendously in the GOAT discussion. It's not that he can't pass Brady if he loses the Super Bowl, but, I mean, do we think Kansas City's going to have an opportunity to three-peat again? I mean, this is a once in a sport every generation or so opportunity. The Yankees and Lakers did it around the same time, but it's, again, never been done in the Super Bowl era. 59 of these things are about to have been played, and Kansas City might be the first and only team to do that. So it'll be remarkable to see if they pull it off, and it'll be massive for Mahomes in the GOAT discussion. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Feel free to chime in the comment section. We've got a loaded show. Hey, we're just on the tip of the iceberg, baby. Very Great Jr. is going to join us in about 9 to 10 minutes or so to talk Luka, to talk Super Bowl, to talk Eli Manning. I wanted to shift, though, to the NBA. Listen, I'll say this. Adam Silver, you got to move your trade deadline to the week after the Super Bowl. Now, it's Adam Silver would say, okay, look, the NFL has stolen Christmas Day from us. We can at least steal some of Super Bowl week away from them. Fair point. I just think it would create even more buzz where it's like, NFL's over. Okay, now we're all in on the NBA. I rest my case. We had the biggest trade was obviously Luka. The second biggest trade, or maybe the most notable one, was Jimmy Butler to my Golden State Warriors. So Jimmy Butler to the Warriors. Warriors gave up a first-round pick, gave up Kyle Anderson, Dennis Schroeder, Lindy Waters, and Andrew Wiggins in particular was kind of the centerpiece of that deal. He goes to Miami. And so, listen, I went through such a roller coaster of emotions on Tuesday. I go into Tuesday, and based on what I've been told from my sources in the Bay Area, this was like that close to being a done deal. This being Kevin Durant from the Phoenix Suns to my Golden State Warriors, the reunion that I've been so desperately craving for the last, really since KD left, to be honest with you. All my sources said it was that close to a done deal, and based on the reporting we've gotten since, that's what it was. The deal was in place until KD, via a conversation on the phone with Steph Curry, via conversation with Mark Spears, via sources, Shams Charania and others, no interest in coming back. Reportedly, he told Steph on their phone conversation that it didn't feel right and that this was not the time to come back to Golden State. I don't know if that's implying that maybe this summer, because KD's going to get moved by Phoenix this summer. I think that relationship has fallen apart in many ways. Maybe he ends up in Golden State. I'm not going to get my hopes up for it. So at that point, I'm like, okay, they failed Steph. They failed Steph completely. They had an opportunity going into free agency last summer to pair up a second star with Steph Curry, like virtually every other superstar in the NBA has across the board, all the good teams, and they weren't able to do that. I'm at work at this point. Again, for those that don't know, I'm in Orlando for the Disney College program, working a lot of night shifts. Get off my shift at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday night, and a coworker of mine, who's a Warriors fan and a Tennessee fan, shout out to him, tells me Jimmy Butler's been traded to the Warriors. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I'm wrapping my brain around that because I'm expecting Jimmy to get dealt to Phoenix. And I check my phone, see the trade details. I'm like, okay, here's where I'm at. It's not that the Warriors gave up that much for Jimmy. Andrew, listen, we knew they were going to have to give up Wiggins. That was going to have to come with that. Only gave up a first-round pick. Dennis Schroeder, the more you learn about Dennis Schroeder behind the scenes, that's probably an addition by subtraction to a certain degree. Kyle Anderson, God bless him, slow-mo, didn't really make much of an impact for this team. Lindy Waters, shout out to him, great shooter. He'll make an impact elsewhere. It wasn't necessarily about what the Warriors gave up. It was the fact, and we knew this coming in, it's not like the Golden State Warriors were going to pull a New York Jets, trade for Hassan Reddick, knowing he wants a new deal, and then not signing him to a new deal. Just idiocy. It's the Jets. What are we talking about? The Warriors weren't going to do that. They knew Jimmy wanted a deal. He was the last resort of making this team somewhat competitive in the Western Conference. We currently sit a game under 500 and the 11th seed right now. One team out of the play-in tournament signed Jimmy Butler to a 2-year deal that will make him the second highest paid player on an average annual basis in the NBA. So now, as we say today, Steph Curry is not the highest paid Warrior in terms of average annual salary. What Jimmy Butler represents to me for the Golden State Warriors, and for the Golden State Warriors specifically, is I'm in college, be it high school, college, heck, elementary school. You put off an assignment long enough, you procrastinate, you stay up late scrolling TikTok or IG Reels because I'll get the assignment done later. What the heck? And then here comes deadline day, and you're like, oh, blank, I got to finish this. And then you scrap some together, and it's like, it's better than nothing. Maybe you get a B plus on it, but it certainly is your best work, and it's on you for not starting the job and the assignment earlier. That's what Jimmy Butler is for the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors have failed Steph Curry going back to June. June, when the early free agency, early the legal tampering period begins, when you can talk to other free agents, when you can try and make some trades happen. Listen, the Warriors tried to make the Paul George trade happen. Steve Ballmer operated out of bad faith. It is what it is. They couldn't make it happen. Whatever. Looking back, that actually might have been a good miss for the Warriors, because as much as I've defended Paul George over the years, he's not had a very good season in Philly. I think he'd fit in Golden State, but it's not the end of the world. Would not give up the necessary compensation to land Lauri Markkanen from the Utah Jazz, who we knew Utah was trying to move. Now the Jazz cannot trade Lauri Markkanen until this coming offseason. Will the Warriors land him? We'll see. Multiple superstars down the list. They had a chance to get LeBron last year. Failed on that. Had an opportunity to get multiple stars. Again, Nikola Vucevic could have been a nice fit. Good big, far from a superstar, but Steph's really never had an excellent big in his career. He's had some Andrew Bogut's, some Kevon Looney's, some JaVale McGee's, guys who have been either good rim protectors, lob threats, what have you. Certainly not the consistent double-double threat, 20-point per game guy that Vooch is with the Chicago Bulls. That'd have been a good move. Potentially a better fit than Jimmy Butler, who's not a three-point shooter, who it does have some health concerns. Now, on the other side of that coin, you could say, well, Jimmy is an above-average basketball player, offensive basketball player in the regular season, but in the playoffs, he takes it to a whole new level. Since 2022, Alfred put together this great graphic. Shout out to Alfred. You look at the numbers, Jimmy Butler is awesome in the postseason. 27 points per game, almost 7 rebounds, 5 assists, almost 2 steals a game, shoots 48% from the field. Again, not a great three-point shooter. 82 from the line. He's led the Miami Heat to 2 Eastern Conference Finals and an NBA Finals, doing so, by the way, as the 8th seed in 2023 as the number 1 option. So glass half full Warriors fan could say, hey, Jimmy has been the 1 option, taking a okay Heat team to the finals. So you could say that. Now he's the number 2 option next to Steph. He would take the biggest impact Butler is going to make is the fact that if Steph either doesn't have it or Steph is facing, we saw this literally the other night against the Lakers, literal quadruple teams. And give the ball to Jimmy Butler, he can get you a bucket. He can get to the rim, he can get fouled, he can knock down a good mid-range. He's stronger than people give him credit for. So all of those things come into the fray. But we also have locker room problems. I am genuinely worried about the dynamic between he and Draymond Green. Draymond Green, we know this situation with Kevin Durant. Everybody literally saw the situation with Jordan Poole. And listen, y'all know I love Draymond. That's my guy. How's that dynamic going to work? Draymond's been there for 4 championships. He's been the cornerstone of a dynasty. Jimmy has no rings, 2 finals appearances, and he's brand new into the franchise. Now, again, we are doing the show live about an hour and a half before Jimmy is set to make his Warriors debut against the Chicago Bulls. That's what it's scheduled to look like. This video will likely be uploaded next week. So we'll see what he does. Let's keep that in the context while watching this. It is the last minute school assignment. You turned it in. It's better than nothing. You'll probably get a B+ on it. Man, you could have done so much better. And so we'll see what happens. But Jimmy, the Warriors, I'll take it. I'm far from crazy about it. Let's put it that way. We're going to go to a 1-minute break. When we come back, Barry Grant Jr. will be joining, and he'll have a thing or two to say about his Los Angeles Lakers acquiring Luka and a number of other topics. Live on Carving Up Live Super Bowl Saturday Extravaganza. Be back in 1 minute. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So joining us now, might as well cut to the chase. He's the host of the All Even podcast. He is as big of a diehard Lakers fan as there is, and he's going to let me hear it. Joining Carving Up Live is... Barry Grant Jr. is joining Carving Up Live. Barry, I'm not going to lie, I'm having a little bit of audio problems, so I'm trying to get to where I can hear you, but tell the audience how you're feeling. I'll try and get this audio situation ironed out.
First off, can you hear me?
I've got nothing from you now, but just go ahead and let it roll. Just go ahead and let it roll.
Look, man, first of all, I'm glad to be here. The fact that the Lakers pulled off the heist of the century. What can I say? What can I be able to say about that? But I love the Lakers. I love Rob Pelinka. I think he's the Wolf of Wall Street. Everybody needs to realize what's going on here. And I'm just really interested to see exactly what's happening with the Warriors. I want to see how they play. I want to see how the whole Jimmy Butler thing is going to start to incorporate itself. I want to see how this works. So
listen, I'm not gonna lie. I genuinely, I mean this genuinely. I did not hear a word you just said. What I'm gonna do is I'm probably just gonna try and connect my earbud to the YouTube. And I don't think it's a problem on your end because I couldn't hear the audio of the break music we played. But so I'll just ask you in advance, and we'll get this ironed out quickly. I'll ask you. So you probably just gave your reaction to Luka trade, I assumed, as it happened. How do you think this works? How do you think it fits with LeBron James? Do you think this ensures LeBron stays in LA long term, or at least for not as long term as it could be the rest of his career? Do you think this fits between he and Luka Doncic?
I think it works perfectly. I think it's one of those things where it's it gives Luka and LeBron a new lease on their careers, especially LeBron. I think LeBron was, I wouldn't say he was coasting. I just think that he was kind of just trying to be as competitive, as ready as he can possibly be with a team that's presented in front of him. But having a guy that you've always admired, a younger guy, a younger you, that you can be able to kind of, mentor and get those things in order. I just think that LeBron has a new skip, a new beat, a new pep in his step, and he's excited to be able to partner with a Luka Doncic. And I think that it's going to go well. These are two guys that have great basketball IQ. They understand the dynamics of how to play in space. LeBron James is probably going to be the off-ball action guy, which is fucking scary, right? So when you talk about reverse actions, pick and rolls, he's going to be the guy to actually be the off-ball action guy. LeBron, this is scary stuff. And a lot of people don't understand how JJ Redick is he probably can't even sleep at night, how excited he is, because he's just like, all of the things that I'm going to be able to do with these two, with Austin Reeves, with Vando. You saw Vando had like 88 rebounds the other night. It was great. So the fact that we have guys that are playing their roles, they're buying in, I think that this is going to be a seamless transition. Kind of like, as a Laker fan, we were always worried, like, how is Powell and Kobe gonna kind of coexist? The first game, it was seamless. And it went on from there, and they went straight to the NBA Finals. I'm not saying that this is that type of team, but this team has potential because they've been playing well. Defensively, they're very good, and I am very excited.
I hate to tell you again, sir, didn't hear a word you just said. But listen, I'll take it that your analysis was very pro-LeBron, pro-Luka. But listen, no, I think, the people talking about, LeBron playing on ball, off ball. And again, I don't know if you made any Karl Malone references. I think LeBron could play that role. I think it's a role he's wanted to play for a while with a potential ball distributing point guard the way Luka can be. He's a guy who's averaged 8-9 assists for his career. We could show you, show the audience some of the graphics here about what this guy's done in what they just traded. The guy's got more all NBA teams, first team all NBAs than Steph Curry, Jokic, Kevin Garnett, Allen Iverson, and Dwayne Wade, and the man is not 26 years old. So when you consider what they just added, it's remarkable. And this I don't even, again, you're going to disagree with this potentially, but people talking about, oh, Rob Pelinka, what he was able to pull off. I think Rob Pelinka, the best job he does was answering the phone. It's a matter of Nico and Nico Harrison calling. He's like, wait, are you serious? As a matter of fact, Nico said at his presser, he's like, yeah, Rob didn't believe me. Rob was like, are you sure you want to trade Luka? And even had to convince Nico out of trading some of the assets. It was as shocking a trade as I've seen. So again, we're still trying to get the audio situation lined up, but I'll ask you as far as Anthony Davis. So we're doing this show live on a Saturday, and AD got off to a red hot start in his opening game with the Mavs against the Houston Rockets, and then he exited to injury. And it is such an unfortunate turn of events in the sense that, okay, the whole knock on AD for all these years has been injuries. And it's like I said on Monday when the trade happened. Okay, you trade a young player, 25 years old, with conditioning concerns for an older player with injury concerns, who, by the way, has never led a team to anything beyond a first-round playoff win 7 years ago as the number one option. Anthony Davis with the Dallas Mavericks with Kyrie Irving. How does it work, Barry?
I think in theory it works great. I saw that he was, spry and looking as jovial as possible. I think he even said that, I'm here, they want me here, and all this other stuff. And he was so amped up, and to hear that he got hurt and it sucks. But in theory, it can be able to work, because I've always said that a good point guard big combo is probably the best type of combo that you can have in the NBA. It's a seamless transition. It's why Jokic and Murray work. It's why even Westbrook and Jokic work, even though Westbrook is not the most efficient basketball player. It's one of those things where you have a good point guard and a good big. It's the best combo. So yes, in theory, it's actually a good thing, but I am just not sure how this is going to look outside of the short term, because long term, once both these guys get old and they don't have the assets anymore, you're going to have to eventually blow this up after the title window kind of expires. So that's my issue about this trade, is that yes, you're thinking about short term, but there's a lot more to your franchise than just the short term. You have to think long term as well and start to put those pieces in place.
Yeah, I've still not got you. I hate to say it, man. I'll listen. I'm assuming you're making great points. You have done enough to earn me the benefit of the doubt. You are a basketball savant. I am giving you the benefit of the doubt. This is far and away the weirdest interview you've done. It is weird to be talking, folks, to Barry Grant Jr., and it's like a silent film. It is, trust me. When you've known this guy for as long as I've known him, it is odd. So listen, we'll transition now to, and I wish to God I could hear you on this one, because transition to football before we can get to the Super Bowl. A lot of controversy going back to Thursday night relating to Eli Manning not getting in the Hall of Fame. So Alfred put together two fantastic graphics. Shout out to our graphics guy, Alfred Parsar Jr. We can pull these up. He put together the case for Eli in the Hall of Fame. The case for Eli looks like this: two-time champion, two-time Super Bowl MVP, third most consecutive starts ever, 10th all-time in touchdown passes, 11th all-time in passing yards. And oh, by the way, he beat the greatest quarterback ever in both of those Super Bowl wins. The case against Eli Manning is as follows: 7 losing seasons, completed barely 60% of his throws. He played 16 years, only made the playoffs for 6 of those, and he never once led the NFL in a single statistical category except for interceptions, which he did 3 times. He also, record-wise, is exactly a 500 quarterback. And so my take on this, Barry, is simple. If I even have to make that second graphic a case against a guy being the Hall of Fame, he's certainly not in on the first ballot in my mind, and I'm not 100% sure he's in. I think a lot of this is the name recognition, him being a Manning. The fact that, again, Giants quarterback, New York, winning in New York in any sport is massive. Did the voters get it right, Eli Manning not being in the first ballot Hall of Fame, and should he be a Hall of Famer at all?
Yeah, I think the voters got it right. I mean, listen, I never thought that Eli Manning was a first ballot Hall of Famer in the first place. I thought that eventually he can be able to get in, because you have to look at, sometimes the time helps your case, right? Sometimes time helps your case depending on the voters. I mean, look at Sterling Sharp. Sterling Sharp was one of the best wide receivers in football. His career got cut short because of injury, but that doesn't escape the fact that he was one of the greatest wide receivers that we saw for a very, very short time. And it was amazing. It was amazing to see him get into the Hall of Fame finally and get his just due. So I'm not mad that Eli Manning is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, because I think that it's a process. It has to play itself out. I mean, look, Phil Simms is in the Hall of Fame. Look at Phil Simms' number. It's about his, his whole the Super Bowl caliber of what he did, of them winning, of them being successful. Eli Manning won Super Bowls. If the object is to be a leader and to win Super Bowls and to put up good numbers, eventually he might get in. But being a first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't necessarily think it's a big deal. It is like, it's a different echelon for guys to say, I'm a first ballot. But when you get into the hall, you get into the hall. It doesn't matter if you're first ballot or you have to wait X amount of years. You're in the Hall of Fame. So he's going to have to wait a little while, but I think his numbers over time and the respect might hold up. It may not, but I do think that he's a fringe Hall of Famer, and I wasn't shocked that he didn't get it.
For sure. Yeah, so I've got you. I've actually got you now on my phone connected to YouTube. So, I can see a little bit. So you're on about, let's say, like a 7-8 second delay. But you think about the guys that missed out in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Some of the names: Terrell Owens, Michael Strahan, Shannon Sharp, DeMarcus Ware, Terrell Davis, Brian Dawkins, Michael Irvin. Some of the greatest ever that we think are now Hall of Famers did not get in on the first go-around. I think it would have been insane for Eli Manning to get in the first ballot. So I feel what you're saying. On the numbers, I get that. He has, it's kind of one of the cases that you can't tell the story of the NFL without Eli Manning. Like, you just can't. He took, without him, Tom Brady has 9 Super Bowl rings. 9. And we're probably having a conversation about Patrick Mahomes potentially catching him in the GOAT debate. Speaking of Mahomes and speaking of the Chiefs, speaking of this game against Philadelphia, have you made a Super Bowl prediction in this game? Because I know you did your show live on Thursday. What's kind of your leaning? How do you think what's going to decide the outcome of this game on Sunday between these two teams?
I think that it's going to be a low-scoring football game. It's not going to be as low-scoring as Rams or Patriots, but I think it's going to be, you got two good defenses going at it, man, and it's going to come down to mistakes. And we know that Patrick Mahomes doesn't make a lot of big mistakes. However, going against this Eagles front changes things for quarterbacks. And we always seen that if Mahomes can get pressured, then sometimes his decision-making kind of drops. So it's about what quarterback is going to be able to make the right reads and the wrong reads as well to give the other team an advantage. Now, we already know that playing the Chiefs, your margin of error is very, very slim. So you're already playing into that factor. You have to make sure that the running game is effective on both the quarterback's end as well as Saquon's end to be able to wear down that defense and see what you can be able to do in a close game going into a fourth quarter situation. So I just think that it's gonna be up to the quarterback. It's always going to be up to the signal caller who actually wins this football game. I can't go against Patrick Mahomes. I can't. Do I want to see that? No. But I don't want to see the Eagles win either because I hate the Eagles. But if I have to choose somebody, I am hoping that the Eagles stop this run and we can go ahead and have somebody else be at the top of the game because I'm sick of the Chiefs. I told you this already, that I have more respect for the Patriots run than ever before. I am sick of this Chiefs dynasty, and I want it to end. I want it to end.
Listen, look, that is amazing. Well, of course, here's the thing, right? Like I want to say you're a Cowboys fan, but you never were. But you don't like the Philadelphia Eagles. I understand that. That is Philly. Amazing.
I'm a New York. I don't like Philly.
You hate the run more than you hate, Philadelphia, I guess. But listen, we'll see how it plays out. Listen, I'll ask you one last question. Are the Lakers going to win the finals? Because, again, I didn't hear much of your answer, so I'm just going to ask you. The Lakers going to win the NBA championship? Just go and say it. You're live on Carby Up. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Listen, I think we match up very well with Oklahoma City. I think we're better than Memphis. I think we're better than the Houston Rockets. I think that we're not better than Denver, but we have the X factor against Denver, and that's Luka Magic. All right, we got the Magic Kingdom now. It's not just Luka anymore. So if you gotta give me if I have to answer, I would say we got a good shot. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We got a good shot.
Okay. So I'm getting the last bit of your answer now. A good shot. So who's going to stop Luka? Who's going to stop Nikola Jokic? So, I mean, nothing against Mark Williams, but Anthony Davis couldn't stop Nikola Jokic. Who's going to stop him?
I don't know, but I don't think that we have to stop Jokic. I think that we have to match firepower with firepower against Jokic. And the thing is, with Luka, nobody on their end is going to be able to stop Luka. So if Jokic gets 40, Luka will get 50 on our side. And we have LeBron. We have Austin Reeves. They don't have those things. So this is all I'm saying is that we can be able to match fire with fire, but we also got the king. That's all I'm saying is that if those guys are going to cancel each other out, I would bet my house that we would have the advantage with LeBron, with Reeves, with the big 9'9" stand and reach Mark Williams. I'm all right with that. Vando, all of it. Lakers. And on top of this, too, we're not talking about this.
You won't get swept. You won't get swept. I'll give you that.
But on top of that, too, they have Russell Westbrook. You think I'm worried about the Nuggets with Russell Westbrook? No. Let him shoot all the threes that he wants because he might end up just playing right into our hands. We love it. We love it.
Okay, who's to say that they won't get rid of Westbrook before the or he's on the buyout market like Ben Simmons, who we saw sign with the Clippers. I'm just saying. Barry Grant Jr., tell everybody where they can find your show, man.
They can find me on Instagram at All Even Podcast, X at All Even Podcast, TikTok, All Even Media. You can get the show on YouTube. I'm there talking all my garbage as well. Catch us on the grid, catch all the grid shows as well. We have a lot of stuff coming, a lot of good shows, 8:00 spot. Alfred's been filling in nicely for our real host. We got a lot of good things coming, man. I finally moved to a live stream, so we're going to see how that goes. I might stay with it. I might go back to what I was doing. I don't know, but I'm trying to figure it out. We had a decent stream the last time, so hopefully we can continue it. We might be moving the show to another day. So, there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes.
I'll say this, the live stream format does fit you well. I think you just going like kind of off the cuff, no edits is, well, it can be a blessing for you. It can also be a curse. So like, just be careful out there, my guy. Like, I don't want you getting no trouble. Okay. But listen, Barry Grant Jr., subscribe to the show. This is, again, far and away the single weirdest interview that we've ever done on this show. But nevertheless, you're a great.
And the funny part about it, Bryson, is that when you watch it back, you're going to be like, this is probably the best interview we ever did because it was so good.
Listen, again, like I said, 7-second delay, so I'm barely just getting in what you're saying. But Barry Grant Jr., All Even Podcast, great sport as always, one of the best out there. Check him out. We'll see you next time, my guy. Hopefully we can do better than this, audio-wise. All right, see you, man. Barry Grant Jr., fantastic. One of the most talented in the business, no question. I don't know what happened with the audio. I really don't. So, yeah, like I said, I had to literally, let me show you guys this. I had to literally go into the show and like sync the audio and this earbud into my phone because my other headphone thing isn't working. But Barry Grant Jr., great points as always. Shifting now to the MVP. Josh Allen now named league MVP for the first time in his career. He wins over Lamar Jackson, who came in a very close second for the prestigious award. So there's a lot of controversy around this. People think Lamar should have won it. I've said from the jump, people think I've been hard on Josh Allen. I've always said, listen, he is one of the most gifted players at his position ever. His ability to run the football, the physical capabilities, the arm strength is off the absolute freaking charts. And so with that said, it is... he would have been my MVP. And people say, well, Lamar had the better numbers. Let's go ahead and show you the numbers between Lamar and Josh, because Lamar did, in fact, almost across the board, have universally better stats. More touchdowns, passes, fewer interceptions, more yards, better completion percentage, better pass rating. Josh beat him out ever so slightly, as slim as you can possibly get in QBR, and he got one more win than Lamar Jackson did this season. Here's what I would say to those that think Lamar won MVP. If you're one of those that thought Lamar Jackson should have been MVP this season and thought someone else should have won it last year, a Christian McCaffrey, a Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, I can't help you, anyone else other than Lamar last year, got no problem with it. I got no problem with it. If you think Lamar Jackson was the rightful MVP last year and also would have been the rightful MVP this year, it's incomplete. It is not incomplete. It is inconsistent with whatever narrative that you want to put up there. We could show you Dak Prescott, who finished second to MVP, and Lamar Jackson, and similar to Lamar finishing in second to Josh. Show Dak's stats against Lamar's last year. Dak beats him almost across the board. Way more touchdowns. 2 fewer interceptions, but a better touchdown-interception ratio. 900 more passing yards than Lamar. Better completion percentage, better passer rating, better QBR. Lamar got one more win than Dak Prescott did. They gave the MVP to Lamar last year for the same reason they gave it to Josh this year. More iconic MVP moments, better, a better contribution, working with less, so to speak. Now, I don't think Dak was working with that much last year, but Derrick Henry, James Cook. James Cook's a good player. Don't get me wrong. James Cook's an excellent running back. Derrick Henry is worst case the second best back in the NFL. I'd probably have him at this point going an extra number 3 behind McCaffrey, should McCaffrey come back healthy. Derrick Henry better than James Cook. Zay Flowers, I'm taking over whoever was the Bills' number 1 option. If you want to say it was Amari Cooper, you want to say it was Khalil Shakir, if you want to say it was Keon Coleman, Lamar is Mark Andrews. I think Dalton Kincaid's going to be excellent in this league for years to come. Mark Andrews is certainly the better tight end in this league. There's no question. That game against Buffalo, notwithstanding with the drops. Okay, defense. Lamar had significantly, by the numbers, particularly at the end of the year, better defense than Josh. To Josh Allen, as I said, going to the playoffs, 33 points per game on average giving up against playoff teams. For a playoff team, that's the 4th worst in NFL history. It's kind of a minor miracle that Buffalo got to the AFC title game to begin with. And so you take all those things into consideration. By the way, it's like the little cherry on top, but what also helps him in the MVP debate. Josh Allen, only player to beat a fully healthy Kansas City Chiefs team since 2 Christmases ago. So I should say fully healthy, fully loaded. They cared about the outcome of the game. You talk about, again, the situation, losing to Denver at the end of the season. That game meant nothing to Kansas City. So, again, Josh Allen, to me, is the clear and obvious rightful MVP. It's nothing against Lamar. Put up those numbers again. A 119 passer rating is absolutely absurd when you consider what Lamar was able to do over the course of this year. He did not turn the football over. He was efficient. He threw the ball as well as he's thrown over the course of his career at any point. Josh, again, and people are like, well, Lamar Jackson was the first-team All-Pro quarterback. How did Josh Allen win MVP? Because I think the NFL voters are starting to get where NBA voters should have been on MVP a long time ago, and that is there is a difference between the best and the most valuable. The best quarterback this year was Lamar Jackson. By the numbers, he was the best. Joe Burrow had a close second. The most valuable was Josh Allen. You consider the moments. You consider the 4th down and 2 run against Kansas City. You consider the fact that this guy who has been, the upside has always been as good as any quarterback currently playing. The downside has been bad. It has cost them some games against the Jets over the years. I remember he had some brutal turnovers in a game 2 years ago against Minnesota. That has always been my knock. Not the turnovers, but the timing and how those turnovers occur. So the fact that he was able to cut that out of his game, working with less, working with a reduced receiving core, I thought was absolutely outstanding. So I think Josh Allen was the rightful league MVP. But at the end of the day, let's keep it real. Does it mean that much? It helps all-time legacy. It will help Josh Allen years down the road as he presents, obviously, what I think we believe will probably be a Hall of Fame career. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I think Mahomes, should he win this game on Sunday, is going to walk away the happier camper of the two. Shout out to Josh, getting his first MVP. Again, I would have voted for him, but the big trophy could very well be going back to Kansas City, or it could be going to Philadelphia, and all of a sudden Jalen Hurts has 1 ring to Lamar and Josh and Burrow's combined 0. So take that for what you will. Speaking of Jalen Hurts, transition to him now, because I think this is a really interesting conversation. It's funny, since the Super Bowl, I haven't talked a ton of Philadelphia, a ton of Jalen Hurts. I've talked Saquon. We can show you what Saquon has done this year. I think Saquon's on the precipice of having the greatest running back season ever. 2,400 rush yards, regular season and playoffs combined. That's only 29 behind Terrell Davis in 1988 for first all-time on 59 fewer carries, 128 yards per game, 6 yards per carry, 18 touchdowns. By the way, he was stopped on the 1 yard line a number of times. Saquon Barkley could have had 30 touchdowns rushing, and with a win Super Bowl MVP and the most rushing yards, would have had indisputably the greatest running back season ever. Now it's kind of more of a toss-up, more of a debate. Should the Eagles win on Sunday and Saquon's MVP? I mean, it is because again, 59 carries behind Terrell Davis, it does become a legit debate. Jalen Hurts. So, listen, coming in the league, I was not a Jalen Hurts guy. I thought there's a reason that Alabama moved in favor of Tua Tagovailoa famously in that national championship game. For all my critiques of Tua, size, durability, Tua is a more natural thrower of the football. Tua is a more accurate thrower of the football. Jalen obviously gives you more with his legs than Tua gives you, but I just thought Tua would adapt to the NFL better than Jalen Hurts did as a pure passer. That might not be entirely incorrect. Certainly Jalen has had the better career, but nonetheless, see that first year in Philly, there's some signs. Maybe this could be something. Year 2, okay, he's good. Philly gets the playoffs. Year 3, burst onto the MVP stage, maybe one of one league MVP over Mahomes had Jalen Hurts not gotten hurt at the end of the season. So you take all those things into consideration, kind of takes a step back last year, turns the football over a ton, does so at the beginning of this year. Then Philly kind of dials it back. They figure out, like, you know what? We've got this guy number 26 in our backfield. We gave him a lot of money. Maybe we should give him the football behind arguably the best offensive line in football. Said offensive linemen, some of them will be featured, obviously, on Bryson's best 10 players in Super Bowl 59. So you understand all those things. The question for Philly, and this will play into my Super Bowl prediction a little bit later, I think this is going to have to be a game. Listen, Saquon's going to get his. I don't any idea that the Kansas City Chiefs, if the Chiefs shut down Saquon, literally put Steve Spagnuolo in the Hall of Fame the day after, put him in Monday, because he shut down the undefeated Patriots in 2007, one of the greatest offenses ever, held them to 14 points. If he shuts down Saquon Barkley, Spags might be the greatest DC of all time. It'll be pretty darn remarkable. You understand that. Saquon's going to get his. But I think Kansas City's going to say, I think Spags is going to say, Chris Jones and others are going to say, hey, Jalen, if you can do against us what you did 2 years ago, mind you, with a significantly worse defense 2 years ago that the Chiefs had than what they have now. If you can do that and you win the Super Bowl, nothing we can do. But we're not letting 26 run wild. We're not letting 26 do what he did at 4 runs this year against the Rams of over 50 to the house. Did Saquon Barkley go against the Los Angeles Rams? I think this is a moment. This is kind of the moment for Jalen. Can he beat his arm? Can he get into a shootout with Mahomes? He did 2 years ago. Some argued he played better than Mahomes. He did have the back-breaking turnover in the fumble where Nick Bolton scored on that third down when Philly was up. I think they were at 14-7 second quarter. Fumble. Nick Bolton takes it to pay dirt, and it really kind of helps change the complexion of that game in favor of Kansas City, who goes on to win. If Philly's able to get the job done, though, if Jalen Hurts plays well, dare I go so far to say, what if Jalen Hurts wins Super Bowl MVP? If he pulls that off, which if the Chiefs lose and Jalen Hurts MVP, they can live with that. They can't live with Saquon going off. Let's say that happens and Jalen wins MVP. There is an element of, and Jalen could make this case based on how he finished the way he did this year, based on what he did against Washington. Albeit a bad defense, but Jared Goff wasn't doing this against Washington in a dome nonetheless, at home as the 1 seed. Yeah, we're a run team. Yes, Saquon's awesome. This offensive line is unreal. Potential first ballot Hall of Famers all over the place up front. But don't get it twisted, I can beat you. There is a bit of a Russell Wilson quality, early Russell Wilson, where, yes, the Legion of Boom is one of the greatest defenses in history. Marshawn Lynch Beast Mode is an unstoppable force when he gets going. But if we need to win a game with my arm, we can do it. Yeah, I can come back on the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game. I can lead you to come from behind win against the 49ers in that 2013 NFC title game. I can lead you back from, what was it, were they 24 points down or something against the Atlanta Falcons in his rookie year in the division round on the road against Atlanta. I can do those things if I'm called upon. Jalen could make that case. I was called upon to do it against Kansas City 2 years ago. I did. Defense couldn't get a stop at the end. Mahomes was literally flawless in the second half of that game. If this time I do it and we win, and let's say I get Super Bowl MVP and Saquon is good but not hitting his head on the goalpost twice a game, then we have to have conversations about Jalen. We all, I think, universally agree on who the big four quarterbacks is. In no particular order, Mahomes is the obvious number one, but people argue who 2 through 4 is. And it's between the names Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. There was a point in time where I thought C.J. Stroud could maybe wedge his way in. Not quite yet. He took a little bit of a step back. I think he'll bounce back in 2025. But for that 5 spot, you've got about 7 names that could say, hey, we deserve a spot there. C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels. Last year, his last healthy season, Dak Prescott was unbelievable, working with a limited receiving core at best in Dallas outside of CeeDee Lamb. Jared Goff, up until the playoff collapse, was like, I don't know, I'm having some of the best stats this year, given what the Lions are able to do offensively. There's a lot of guys that can make that claim for that 5 spot. If Jalen Hurts wins Super Bowl MVP, he's like, timeout. I'm looking around. Among quarterbacks, I take Joe Flacco. He's a backup. I'm one of 4 active quarterbacks who has a Super Bowl MVP on their resume. Right? Mahomes. He would be, including Flacco. Flacco, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts. Look up and down the National Football League. That would be the case. And so, listen, I mean, Russell Wilson didn't win it. Matthew Stafford didn't win Super Bowl MVP. Trying to think of other previous champions that are still in the league. I mean, that's where we're at. Aaron did it in 2010. Mahomes has done it twice. Joe Flacco did it in 2012. And Jalen Hurts, if they win, would do it in 2025. And I think it would be critical. I think he would have as strong a case for anybody. Yeah, I'm not in that big 4, so to speak. But, I mean, I got the bling. I came up big when I was called upon. I did it against an elite defense. What then can you say about me? So for all the doubters Jalen Hurts has had over the years, I, for one, have been one. This could be an opportunity for him to shut a lot of people up for a really long time. My man, John Rivera, shout out to John Fan Perspective Podcast in the comments. He says Hurts is going to have a big game. I think he's going to have to be. Not again. I don't think the Chiefs are shutting down Saquon. If they do, dear God, put Spags in the Hall of Fame Monday. Don't think that's going to happen. But Jalen's going to have to make plays with his arm. And the thing that does make this sort of interesting is that Philadelphia in their vertical passing game is outside the numbers. A.J. Brown at the top, Devontae Smith over the top. That's what they do. You look at their passing charts, they don't go over the middle. That's where Kansas City is at their weakest. Of the 3 levels of that Kansas City defense, up front D-line, fantastic. Secondary, great. Defensive line, linebackers, not that good, generally speaking. So over the middle, can they be able to stop them? We'll see. But listen, I can't wait for the Super Bowl. We are, less than 24 hours away from kickoff. Again, never done a show on a Saturday ever in the history of Carving Up Live. I feel like today is a good time to do it, given what we were going to witness tomorrow night. Last segment, I believe, make sure I'm getting this right, because we've had so much to talk about today. Last segment before we go to break is, and I will openly confess, I think we got a comment from John. I think Barkley's going to have a slow game for his standards. Good way to put it, his standards. So, again, go and put up Saquon's numbers for this year. Let's look at the yards per game, 128 yards per game. That's his average. Could he do that? Okay, so John says Barkley will have 80 rushing yards. I certainly wouldn't consider that shutting him down, but I would say if the Chiefs hold 80 rushing yards and Jalen doesn't go off, Kansas City's going to win. Like, that's your game right there. And so get to my prediction in about 10 minutes or so. I will openly confess I copied a guy I have the utmost respect for as one of my true inspirations for getting into this content creating space and hopefully pursuing a career as a sports broadcaster, having my own simulcast show in the future, Colin Cowherd. He does this every year. His top 10 players going into the Super Bowl. I'll openly admit, I've copied that. I do my top 10 players in Super Bowl. I do have my own version of it because this is Bryson's Best 10. We haven't done one really since the wild card round, top 10 teams, the wild card round, top 10 players in Super Bowl 59. If we can go get that background music on right now, here we go. So, Bryson's Best 10, my top 10 players in Super Bowl 59. Here we go. We will start If I can pull this up here. At number 10, the 10th best player in Super Bowl 59 is one Travis Kelce. Yes, Travis Kelce, the 10th best player in Super Bowl 59, and here is why. So you say, wait, Bryson, and you'll see who will have been left off the list from either teams. There was one Eagle and one Chief that were that close to getting on. I gave Kelce the edge over. You'll see who that was later. Travis Kelce historically is the second greatest pass catcher in the history of the NFL playoffs to Jerry Rice. If he has a monster game, he'll beat Jerry in every statistical category all the time. Yards, catches, touchdowns in the history of the NFL playoffs. Up until the AFC title game against Buffalo, where he was held in check completely. I believe he only had 2 catches for 14 yards. He had an incredible streak where he had like 14 straight games or something along that line of at least 70 receiving yards or more in his playoff career, which is an incredible streak. No one else had more than 7 up to that point. That streak got broken against the Buffalo Bills. Listen, I think when in doubt, I think this could very well be a close game. Who's number 15 going to go to? Number 87, who's been his trusty target this entire dynasty run. Travis Kelce is the 10th best player in Super Bowl 59. At number 9, it is a guy who maybe is the biggest shock individually of the NFL season. How about Zach Bond? Zach Bond, the 9th best player in Super Bowl 59. And here is why. So this is a guy who comes from the Saints, the first 4 years of the league, good special teams guy, nice player. Philly picks him up on a year-long contract. He makes a little over $3 million, and the guy is a first-team All-Pro in 2024. Pro Football Focus ranked him the highest-graded linebacker in the league. He was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. This guy we talk about the catalyst, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, certainly Vic Fangio, as guys who have led the the Philadelphia Eagles into going from a bottom 3 defense into points per game-wise, the best defense in the league. This guy's done as well. He's an elite tackler. He fits the Fangio system perfectly. He's going to be critical in stopping some of these intermediate routes, which Kansas City, I think, is going to utilize a lot with their offensive line working at that elite Philadelphia Eagles pass rush. He's going to be a key factor. Zach Bond is the 9th best player in Super Bowl 59. At number 8 is another Philadelphia Eagle. It is Lane Johnson, the right tackle. Lane Johnson is the 8th best player in Super Bowl 59, and here's why. So we talk about the dominance of Trent Williams, and Trent Williams from the San Francisco 49ers, no doubt future first ballot Hall of Famer. We talk about the guy doesn't give up pressures, doesn't give up sacks. Folks, this is the 3rd season in the last 4 years that Lane Johnson has given up 0 sacks. 3rd time in the last 4 years in the twilight of his career. He's having very much like his former teammate, Jason Kelce, into his career, where Jason Kelce, a credible case can be made. He was still the best center in the league, even at the time that he stepped away from the game of football last season. Lane Johnson can make a case, probably number 2 behind a guy like Penei Sewell in Detroit. But what this guy does protecting Jalen Hurts' eyesight every Sunday, what he does in the run game for Saquon, what he's done for previous running backs in Philly, kind of being certainly the anchor on the right side of that O-line, being able to provide that and establish that identity that Philly wants to be. He's an awesome player. He's in his 3rd Super Bowl now, looking for his 2nd title. One of the last remaining players from the Eagles' only Super Bowl championship in franchise history. Lane Johnson is his 8th best player in Super Bowl 59. Another Philadelphia Eagles at number 7. It is Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is the 7th best player in Super Bowl 59, and here is why. So, first time he made the Pro Bowl this year. He had a solid rookie season, winners to the controversy and the tragedy from Georgia coming into his first year in the league. Year 2, he has been, without question, one of the top 3 defensive tackles in the National Football League. And when you consider, folks, in these playoffs, he has generated pressure on 20 QB dropbacks. Again, as an interior defensive lineman, that matchup, I'm not sure what Kansas City's going to do because they moved their all-pro left guard, Joe Thuney, I believe he's all-pro, to left tackle, and put Caliendo at left guard. So now it could be my man out of Tennessee, Trey Smith, being, getting help from Creed Humphrey, from that offensive line to be able to help on Jalen Carter, which could create, great pass rush opportunities for guys like Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham coming back in this game. So we'll see what happens. I think this guy is a game wrecker. What he's doing in year 2, this kid has not even scratched the surface of what he can be, especially in this Philadelphia Eagles defense. Jalen Carter is the 7th best player in Super Bowl 59. We've got a Kansas City Chief who very well will be matching up against Jalen Carter tomorrow. It is going to be Creed Humphrey. Creed Humphrey, center for the Kansas City Chiefs is the 6th best player in Super Bowl 59, and here is why. So he had a Pro Football Focus grade of 92.3. He was the highest graded center in the National Football League this season. Also, third time in the last 4 years, leading all centers in the highest grade. He's the best offensive lineman the Chiefs have. They have Joe Thuney. They have my guy, Trey Smith. This could be Trey Smith's final game as a Chief. Love for the Steelers to go after him. I'll say that. Point is, though, again, he's been the anchor of this O-line ever since he got here out of Oklahoma in 2021. I believe it was 2022. This guy is, again, the top center in the league, especially after Jason Kelce is retired. He's been amazing up front. Pro Football Focus knows what they're talking about. Third time in 4 years, he's the top center in the league. Graded-wise, he is number 6 on the best players in Super Bowl 59. Back to the Philadelphia Eagles, the 5th best player in Super Bowl 59. It's another O-lineman. It is Landon Dickerson, left guard for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is the 5th best player in Super Bowl 59. So you're talking about a 3-time Pro Bowler from Alabama. The guy, he's been dealing with some injuries. According to reports, he's going to play, or certainly is trending to play tomorrow, which is going to be critical against the Kansas City pass rushers like a George Karlaftis and others. So I think it's going to be critical for him to be to be up front for this Eagles, rush attack. He's kind of been the key guy at left guard, to be able to anchor that. He's been fantastic. Landon Dickerson is the 5th best player in Super Bowl 59. A guy who he very well could be facing tomorrow is at number 4. It is Chris Jones. Chris Jones is the 4th best player in Super Bowl 59, and here is why. So now that Aaron Donald's gone, he's the best defensive tackle in the NFL. It's the 2nd time in the last 4 years that he has been a first team, second highest graded, my apologies, interior defensive lineman for the 2nd time in the last 3 years. In that same span, he has also been named All-Pro first team. He has been in this Kansas City dynasty. We talk about Mahomes, we talk about Kelce, we talk about Reed. He's been the unsung hero. He's been in some ways like the Draymond Green or the Dennis Rodman, to use a basketball example, of the dynasty. Every single time that Kansas City needs a tackle for a loss, a sack, a batted ball at the line of scrimmage, be it against Cincinnati, be it against some of these games, against the 49ers, the playoffs, he's the guy to make that play. He generated pressure on Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl last year on that 3rd down, where the Niners had 2 wide open receivers. Could have led to a different outcome in that football game against the Chiefs last year. He's a game record. He saves his best for the playoffs, kind of indicative of what the Chiefs do as a team. Chris Jones is the 4th best player in Super Bowl 59. Back to the Eagles at number 3. The 3rd best player in Super Bowl 59 is Jordan Mailata. The 3rd best player in Super Bowl 59. The Aussie, Mailata. Love the accent. 3rd best player in the league. Not only do I love the accent, I love the game. This is a former lacrosse. He's one of the sorry for the again. Jordan Mailata, former lacrosse player, okay? Talking about a guy who is 6'8", 365 pounds. The guy is an absolute unit up front for this Eagles team. Left tackle, the best in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. Philly's got the best tackle duo by far in the National Football League. Protecting Jalen Hurts' blind side is going to be critical, because I think Jalen is going to have to be very important for the Eagles to win this game. Jordan Mailata is the 3rd best player in Super Bowl 59. Number 2 and number 1 feel a bit anticlimactic, so we'll go and roll through it. Number 2, 2nd best player in this game is Saquon Barkley, the Offensive Player of the Year. Saquon Barkley is the 2nd best player in Super Bowl 59, and here's why. Go and put up the graphic. Potentially the greatest running back season ever that we could be witnessing. Is either going to be he or 1998 Terrell Davis. Certainly should Philadelphia win this game. Saquon, 2,447 rush yards, 128.8 yards per carry. Yards per game, and yards per carry, 6 yards per attempt. 18 touchdowns, only 29 yards behind Terrell Davis for the most rushing yards, playoffs and regular season in NFL history. He was always a good player, plagued by injuries with the New York Giants. The fact that New York, we don't have to relitigate this too much, but decided we're going to give Daniel Jones, the guy who threw 15 touchdown passes in our playoff run, we're going to give him the bag and franchise Saquon, and then let Saquon walk to, I don't know, our biggest division rival, who probably has the best offensive line in the league. Wonder how that was going to work. Did not think it would come to this. Certainly I didn't. I thought it'd be good. Did not see a potential MVP candidate season coming from this guy. He's been unreal. He's a home run threat every single time he touches the ball. He is the 2nd best player in Super Bowl 59, and the obvious the king of the NFL, as we see here today, the best player in Super Bowl 59, the best player in the National Football League is Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in Super Bowl 59. And again, we'll run through the graphics. Here's why. Matter of fact, let's better graphic. Patrick Mahomes first all time in the following categories: touchdown interception ratio, yards per game, completion percentage, passer rating, win percentage. He has the second most wins in the history of the NFL playoffs, Tom Brady, and the man is not 30 years of age. With a win on Sunday, he would go into a dead tie for the second most rings by a quarterback in Super Bowl history, with 4, tied with Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw. He's been the anchor of this dynasty. He's looking to do something, as we talked about in the opening segment, that has never been done in the long and storied history of the Super Bowl, and that is win 3 consecutive big games in a row. 3 consecutive games in February, never been done before in Super Bowl history. He'll be able to look Tom in the eye when this GOAT debate comes to fruition in potentially 5 years, dare I say sooner if he keeps winning at this rate, and say, Tom, for all you did, for the absurd resume you put together, I did something you didn't do. I did something Joe didn't do. Peyton didn't do. Elway didn't do. Dan didn't do. Aaron, Breeze, anybody. I did that. A three-peat. Patrick Mahomes is pursuing that. These are the 10 best players in Super Bowl 59. Go and put up the list right there. Bryson's best in Super Bowl 59. 1 to 10, I got Mahomes at the top, followed by Saquon Barkley, Jordan Mailata, Chris Jones, Landon Dickerson, Creed Humphrey, Jalen Carter, Lane Johnson, Zach Bond, and Travis Kelce. For those wondering, at the start of this segment, I said my top 2, I had a Chief and an Eagle that were very close to being in the top 10. I gave Kelce the bump ahead of them, even though these guys are better players today in a larger sample size. Kelce in these playoff games is immaculate. Trent McDuffie for the Kansas City Chiefs. Worst case, the second best corner in the league to pass Surtain. Congrats to him, Defensive Player of the Year. And best case might be even better than Surtain. And then for the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown. I considered some other guys. Cam Jurgens for the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought about Karlaftis. Karlaftis is having one heck. Like, his postseason resume is sneaky good. It's all he's used to. He's been in the league 3 years. Could be getting 3 Super Bowls in those 3 years. But those are my top 10 players in Super Bowl 59. Take another break. 1-minute break on Carvey Up Live. And be back for my prediction on who wins the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 59. Be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Carvey Up Live. So, of course, in our Super Bowl Saturday extravaganza show, we talked NBA trade deadline. Barry came on. I only heard like half of the interview, and with the half that I heard was via our YouTube stream, and Barry was fantastic. A good sport as always about it. Shout out to him. Subscribe to the All Even podcast. For all that we talked about the Allen MVP, Eli in the Hall of Fame, not in the Hall of Fame, more on the Luka trade, Jimmy to my Warriors, not crazy about it. Talked about Mahomes' legacy, talked about what it mean for Jalen Hurts, the top 10 players in the Super Bowl. But our final segment before the big game is played in a little less than 24 hours is fitting. Who wins the darn game? That is why we do these shows all season long. Who's going to win Super Bowl 59? It's between the final 2. Out of the AFC. Now go and get the background music on. Our Super Bowl background music. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's roll. So, in Super Bowl 59. We all know by now, out of the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs looking for the first three-peat in Super Bowl history and their fifth title in franchise history. Out of the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles looking for their second Super Bowl title in franchise history. Their first only coming 7 seasons ago, in 2017. So before I even get into the game itself, I did feel it was appropriate to put up how I've done in predicting the big game. So I've been predicting the Super Bowl since well before Carving Up Live started in 2019. We can go and put up my little graphic. So my Super Bowl record is not great. 2 games under 500, 5-7. First one I predicted was Ravens 49ers. I was wrong on that one. The Ravens beat. I picked the 49ers. The next year, I picked who was it that year? I picked the Denver Broncos and the Peyton Manning high-powered offense against the Legion of Boom. Ooh, that was a dud. 43-8 happened. Picked Seattle against the New England Patriots. I was a yard away from being correct. The next season, picked the Carolina Panthers 15-1. The MVP Cam Newton over Peyton Manning in his final rodeo. Wrong on that one. Next year, I made the once again terrible mistake of betting against Tom Brady. Picked Atlanta. Wrong on that one. I decided I'm going to pick Tom Brady now against Philly. Wrong on that one. Finally, I get a Super Bowl right in Super Bowl 53, with the Patriots dethroning the Rams 13-3 in what was the biggest dud of the Super Bowl ever. Get the next year wrong, I bet against Mahomes. Bad mistake there. Niners lose to the Chiefs. Since then, I have yet to get a Super Bowl prediction incorrect. Basically, the way you could put it is that ever since Carving Up came to YouTube, first year we were on audio in the 2019 season, since Carving Up Live came to YouTube, I have yet to get a Super Bowl prediction wrong. As that graphic says right there, 4-game winning streak, and 3 of those 4 is just like me. And so I'm saying, you know what? I'm going to bet on Tom Brady. I'm going to bet on Mahomes twice, and the Rams that were better than the Bengals that year. Anyway, so in this matchup, Philadelphia dealing with some injuries. Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson dealing with some injuries as well. By the way, Jalen Carter, who's been limited in practice this week, he's been sick. Apparently there's been the flu. This stomach bug is going around the country like crazy right now, folks. Jalen Carter, don't know if that's what he's dealing with. Apparently it's flu-like symptoms. He's feeling under the weather. He looks to be able to be out there tomorrow night for Super Bowl 59 against what I think is going to be the key matchup, the key aspect to look for in this game. We talk about Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham back from injury, Zach Bond trying to make an impact on that front 7 as he's done all season long. The matchup for me, what is Andy Reid, what is this Chiefs offensive coaching staff going to do to limit Jalen Carter? Again, 20 pressures in this postseason run for the Philadelphia Eagles, which is outstanding. He's been the second best defensive tackle in the league this year with Chris Jones. For Kansas City, interior of their offensive line was actually their strength. It was on the outside, the perimeter, where they kind of struggled a little bit, where it was Tooney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith, probably the best center guard lineup in the league. The problem is they had to move Tooney to left tackle and put Caliendo at left guard. He's a fine player. He's no Joe Tooney. So, does Jalen Carter say, okay, I'm going to try and attack Trey Smith, just single coverage here? Do I try and go one-on-one against an excellent right guard in Trey Smith? But I don't think he'd hold up against Jalen Carter. As Barry said, on his appearance an hour ago on the show, Mahomes has struggled at times against pressure. He can get happy feet at times, maybe not make great decisions. Speaking of said decisions, speaking of the turnover battle, Philadelphia has not turned the ball over a single time in these playoffs. They have a +10 in the turnover margin. Kansas City, no turnovers forced, 1 turnover committed. It was a Mahomes fumble in the second quarter a couple of weeks ago against the Buffalo Bills. So that's something to keep an eye on. The turnover battle, I think whoever wins that is going to win this football game. As we talked about with Jalen Hurts, Kansas City, Steve Spagnuolo, it's going to be all out. Saquon Barkley is not going to run wild on us. Now, that's easier said than done. I'm sure the Packers said the same. I'm sure the Rams, twice, by the way, said the same. I'm sure Washington, 3 times, said the same. The Packers played them twice, by the way, and Saquon ran wild on every single one of them in virtually every single time that they played. So Kansas City, Steve Spagnuolo, because we talk about the Spags exotic blitzes. Tom Brady was talking about this week. I saw Tom Brady's calling the game with Kevin Burkhardt on Fox. But Tom was talking about the exotic blitzes the Spags brings, which he saw when he faced Spags in that 07 Super Bowl, is he fools you so much. Sometimes you think the extra guys are coming around the left, they're coming around the line. Right, vice versa. And then sometimes you think they're going to go opposite, and they come around the ends where they were initially looked like they were lining up to come around. So he keeps you guessing. He's got every quarterback, it's sort of in a spin around. What are we going to do? What type of decisions are we going to make with the football in our hands? He's the best defensive coordinator in the league without question. Here's the issue. And we saved our best graphic for last on this show. We had a lot of graphics today. Alfred came up with a big chunk of them. Shout out to him. I decided to save, this is going to sound selfish, but the best graphic for myself. Patrick Mahomes in these close games, of which I believe this will be. I believe this is going to be a close, down to the wire, very similar to what we saw 2 years ago. Barry thinks it's going to be low scoring. I get that. Two great defenses. I think both defenses have an area that either offense can exploit. Over the middle, Philly never goes over the middle. Dallas Goedert, sneaky Super Bowl MVP pick if you're going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Look for Dallas Goedert to have a big game. Should Philly win this one? And as for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think Xavier Worthy could be a huge X factor as well. The problem is, for all the matchups that either team can exploit, we believe this will be close. And what and whom, by the way, does that seem to favor? A guy, once again, is in the chase, looking to enter the conversation with the GOAT himself, who will be on the call, Tom Brady. Can Patrick Mahomes do that by getting the three-peat on Sunday? Can we show Patrick Mahomes' stats in the fourth quarter and overtime when Mahomes trails in the fourth quarter OT down a score? Show the numbers. They're absurd. 6 touchdowns. Not a single time Mahomes has turned the ball over. If he's trailing the fourth quarter OT, completes 71% of his throws, and it has a passer rating of 132.4, which I believe is first all-time. Shocker in that scenario. The guy is nails when it comes down to these close fourth quarter situations. I think it's exactly what we're going to see. The Eagles are going to lead 27-24 with about 2 minutes and change to go. I think they'll kick a field goal. Jake Elliott will kick a field goal 45 yards out or so in order to put Philadelphia in front, 27-24. And then the man of the hour, the guy looking for certainly not his coronation as the GOAT, but the argument starter, if you will, to get the first three-peat in Super Bowl history. Patrick Mahomes leads the Kansas City Chiefs on a game-winning drive, a game-winning touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins to win Super Bowl 59. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs by a final score of 31-27 over the Philadelphia Eagles to win their third consecutive Super Bowl. They will make history. They will do what I believe they would before the season. I picked the Chiefs before the year started. I stuck with them, which sounds weird because they went 15-2. Like, sticking with the 15-2 team is one of the last 2 Super Bowls shouldn't be that big of a gamble, if you will. But evidently, people thought there was something wrong with the Chiefs. I don't know. We were watching 2 different sports, folks. The Kansas City Chiefs put that score up one more time. Obviously, -1. This could be a pick-em game by kickoff. Kansas City 31, Philly 27. The Chiefs win their 5th title in franchise history. Mahomes wins his 4th Super Bowl, 3rd in the row, unprecedented. And Patrick Mahomes, shocker, will be your Super Bowl MVP. He will solidify himself as no worse than the 2nd greatest quarterback in history and officially begin, at the very least, rumblings. In some cases, he'll have already passed Brady. I don't agree with that. But the rumblings, Tom Brady will hear some of those footsteps for number 15 in Kansas City. The Chiefs will be your Super Bowl 59 champions in New Orleans, Louisiana, in what I think will be a fantastic Super Bowl. Man, this was fun. It always is when we do our Super Bowl preview show. We do our regular carving it up schedule. We do 3 shows a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do it obviously the Friday before the Super Bowl, as most shows do. But as it turns out, with me in Florida, with the schedule of when I'm working, I had to find the right time to do the show. I wanted to do it live. I want to do most of these shows in front of an audience. As we go, shout out Barry Grant Jr. once again for really holding it down while we were dealing with some audio technical issues. He was great talking Lakers, talking Luka, talking Anthony Davis, and the Super Bowl and Eli Manning. Super Bowl Saturday extravaganza in the books. That is all the time in for today's show, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live. We hope to be on Monday, same time as usual, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. We hope to do a post-Super Bowl live reaction show the day after. Cannot wait. I got the Chiefs win once again, 31-27. Be sure to like, share, and of course, take 2 seconds every day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. Please tell your friends about it, your family about it, everybody you know about Carving Up Live, except, of course, for your sleeping cat, of which I desperately miss. My little buddy Nealon back home in Tennessee. I'll see you at some point soon, my guy, in the next few months. But it's good to be in Florida. It's good to be in warm weather in February. I gotta say, it's the one thing. The weather's not been bad back home, but 80 degrees on February 8th. Not bad. All right, we will see you guys on Monday, hopefully, with our post-Super Bowl 59 reaction show. May have a guest, may have 2 guests. We'll see what happens. Tune in for then. Until then, stay safe out there, everybody. God bless y'all, and peace out. And boy, it is time for the Super Bowl.
Finally, it is time for the Super Bowl!
Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.